What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Miss Teen Crypto Show. I hope everybody's having a lovely Tuesday. Oh my gosh, guys, there's so much going on in this space, so much going on all around on the charts. But most importantly, hello to everybody in the chat. I hope everybody's chilling. I'm your host, Randi Hipper, back at it with another episode of the Miss Teen Crypto Show. If you guys were joining me earlier for the Daily Zest, then thank you for joining me. I will be back tomorrow for the Daily Zest at 12 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. I'm going to waste no time. I want to talk to today's amazing, zesty guest, the one and only Gareth Soloway. Welcome back to the show. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm doing wonderfully well. Thank you so much for having me back on, and I look forward to our chat today.
Yes, me too, man. There's been so much going on. I can't even wrap my mind around this whole crypto kind of a little bit of a collapse going on, not because of like actual crypto collapsing, but people within the space and all these actors just slowly disappearing. We saw Celsius and Voyager. Now there's BlockFi that's going down, and this whole thing with FTX. I mean, Gareth, like, are we okay? Are we going to make it out of this?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the short answer is absolutely. In fact, weirdly enough, this is exactly what happens consistently in every nasty bear market, right? So during bull markets, it's easy to hide shady behavior. And
Absolutely.
So people do things like that. I mean, you go to Enron, WorldCom in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, and those were publicly traded companies, by the way, that were doing really shady things. And then, it makes sense that when you have so much money in the system and crypto just going nuts, they're going to be bad actors, right? And they're going to do shady things. But uncovering them, rooting them out, pulling them out of the system, it actually is the healthiest thing we could have going on. So, again, it's always good to look at it on a positive note. And I think that's the positive note, is that we get rid of all of this, then there's the trust can return. We need a little transparency. We need a little regulation. And then what you're going to see is more people adopt cryptocurrency, even more so than it is now.
I agree. And what kind of regulation do you see coming? Because even I was seeing, I don't know if you saw, the Bahamian Attorney General was speaking the other day about FTX. He was live 20 minutes. That was the craziest 20 minutes. And he was talking about how they wanted to impose like cross-border regulation, everyone working together. So there's something brewing here. What do you think we're headed?
Yeah, so I think that's kind of where it is going, right? You have so many of these crypto companies from the Bahamas, from different areas, and you have to have some sort of cross-border coordination so that things get flushed out easier. There's communication, there's assistance between regulators, and I think again that's a super positive thing where you're going to have this. No one wants to look bad, and right now you have the Bahamas looking bad. People are pissed off. They're and obviously the Bahamas doesn't want to get that reputation of being the place that if you're doing something shady, you go to hide. So I think they're open to working with the SEC and working with the governing bodies. And I think you got to get to this point where I'm not sure what the regulation will be, but I think that you have to have a certain amount of disclosures that any cryptocurrency exchange has to do, or any cryptocurrency, much like, weirdly enough, like publicly traded companies, right? They have to be audited every quarter. They have to release their financials, like where is all their money? Where are they putting their money? Like all of those things in a weird way would kind of be nice for us as investors to know. Right. I mean, we're not looking for I don't want bad regulation, which is always the risk, right? When you're dealing with government, do they overregulate? But at the same time, I'm a big believer that, the best projects are going to survive and thrive no matter what, right? Yeah, the crappy ones or the medium ones, they may fail. But honestly, that's part of kind of the whole system. And if you go back to the dot-com era with the bubble in the dot-coms in the late 90s, this same sort of thing happened, right? When you had the dot-com collapse, there were shady entities, then there was more regulation on the internet, and it kind of let the best survive and thrive. And in the 2008, 2009 Great Recession, you had these banks that were doing things they shouldn't have. There were certain banks that went out of business. Unfortunately, the government bailed out other banks. But from that came Dodd-Frank, which was regulation on the banks where they had to do certain things a certain way. So it's super, you don't want to say normal because it sucks that anyone's losing money in a normal kind of correction or bear market. But it's very common that in these periods, this is what happens. And this is how it's remedied.
The shaking out is horrifying. The money that has been lost in this particular area, never mind all the bridge hacks and everything like that that's happened, because if you're adding everything up, it's billions of dollars that has left the crypto ecosystem overall. But I do think we could come back from it. I mean, speaking about Mt. Gox, there at that time it was one of the only exchanges, and they thought crypto was dead after that. And we continue to rebuild, and even now we have a lot of people coming into the space. The big money still coming into the space. Fidelity actually started, I think it was yesterday or today, retail crypto trading. So now they want people to get into the space. How do you think like more people, do you think more people like Fidelity are going to come into this space and offer retail investors a chance to invest with them versus like trying to give, cryptocurrency exchanges a chance?
Yeah, I do think that it's going to draw in more, especially when you get the regulation, right? Because the fact of the matter is there's money to be made, and anything that's new, where there's money, when there's profits to be made, you're going to have these regular brokers that are mostly doing stocks, bonds, commodities. They're going to say, well, listen, we have the whole setup for our, trading already. What's the difference between just, it's only going to cost us X amount of dollars, very small amount, to branch into crypto, right? And so I think that's a very natural way to go. And the positive is for retail investors, right? There's a positive, which is that the more participants in a market that you have, like in terms of an exchange, the lower fees are going to go. And so in stock trading now, you actually have situations where it's actually free to buy and sell stocks. Yes, there's selling for order flow and stuff like that, but for the most part, it's very inexpensive versus, if you do a trade on Coinbase, it's still kind of a hefty amount of money if you're buying and selling crypto there.
It is so expensive. I mean, when I'm buying crypto, I'm a little crazy. So I look on every exchange that I have on my phone and see which is the cheapest with the fees, because you have to get the best for your dollar. And I want to accumulate as much as possible. I mean, Coinbase is pretty expensive. When buying Bitcoin, sometimes I use Cash App because they have good fees on Cash App. But even what you were talking about before, which was, I think, a little bit essential, is more transparency in this space, because even maybe a publicly traded company in this space, we don't know what's really going on behind closed doors. And that goes for hedge funds. This goes for pretty much everything. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And will we ever really know the truth? Probably not. What we are seeing in this space right now is a trend of proof of reserves. And I've been seeing a few different exchanges put out proof of reserves. Do you think this is something good, or is it just a temporary fix for what people are talking about right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in the right zone, right? I'm not sure if I trust it fully yet. I want to see that kind of like, okay, what's the standardized audited proof of reserves kind of thing? But it's definitely in the right track. And what they're really doing is, like, Binance did this, I think, recently and so forth. But it's about regaining trust and trying to calm the crypto markets, right? Because all these other exchanges, whether they're doing things that they shouldn't be or they aren't, people are getting nervous. We know there's a massive amount of people pulling off crypto from the exchanges and into cold storage and stuff like that. So you have that aspect, and they don't want to lose that money, right? They need it left on those exchanges. Therefore, people are trading more. They can make money and so forth. So I think the bottom line is that it's a step in the right direction, but it's not where it needs to be. There's no doubt it has to be even more transparent.
Yeah, I definitely would like to see more transparency. I believe even, I think it was someone from Tether that was talking about it on CNBC last week, and he was saying that he wishes even within that there was more transparency, that even he wished he knew more of what was going on within his own project. So, there's people that just are blindly working. And I think people do that within the traditional financial system as well. People are just blindly going with everything and just not questioning anything. I'm just going to do my job and then leave. What do you see for, cryptocurrency exchanges in the future? Because obviously a lot of them got wiped out. People are trying to rebuild. Do you think that we're going to see a change in how exchanges even operate in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think there will have to be new rules that they abide by. But in terms of letting people, put money on them and buy and sell crypto, I think that'll generally remain the same, just because for now decades, that's how it's been in the stock market, right? And where commodities are is you put your money in an account, you buy and sell. I think one of the most important things for crypto is that you need that government regulation, which then will be what's called the FDIC insurance. If I have $250,000 in a stock market account, and if someone steals that money, it's actually insured and I'll get it back, right? So think about that, right? If your grandma is wanting to get into crypto, but she gets caught in these scams where it's like phishing, where they get her to click a link or whatever it is, you got to think that that's not the right way to handle it right now, where you don't get your money back. It's just kind of gone. So I think that you got to step up that side of things. That FDIC insurance would be huge to have in the crypto markets. And I think that's going to be part of the regulation, which is actually a positive part.
I think that would be cool, just to have more, safety, I guess, in that way, because I think a lot of people were treating exchanges like a bank. And I think that's where the big mistakes happen, is just people trusted them just like they trusted the bank. And then they realize that they don't have that FDIC insurance, that they have to actually do their due diligence with this. And then with SPF, everything that went down, that was something that people just didn't expect. If you're an average person and you see Tom Brady on a commercial in FTX Arena, are you going to know that FTX is doing all of this? People within this own space lost so much of their money on FTX. And we found out all the stuff about SPF after. What do you think about the whole FTX collapse? Could we have seen this coming, or is this something that we just have to learn from and move on?
No, I think you're 100% right, is that you have to understand that a lot of the people in crypto right now are so young. And again, I'm not super old myself, but they haven't been through a lot of the trials and tribulations of holding big investments or managing big companies. And so when you have this kind of almost overnight instant success where your company's valued at, $30 billion, let's say, you tend to not take the precautions, partially because we're young. When I was young, and again, you're very young, like you're more likely to jump out of an airplane, you're more likely to do these things. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that there's this kind of invincibility, which is like, well, let me just take all the risk I want because, I'm sure it'll be okay, and they haven't experienced this. And I think that's part of it. And then the other side of the coin is that, some of the things that it seems like he was doing with Alameda or whatever it's called, it was definitely on the shady side. So like he must have known that he shouldn't be doing that. And I think he needs to be punished. Honestly, you can't let stuff like this fly and then not have a repercussion for it. So I do hope he gets arrested, and I hope there are repercussions.
I agree. Currently, he's just hanging out in the Bahamas. The most they said, the attorney general is also like, oh, we'll investigate. And then we do have him supposedly speaking tomorrow at the New York Times Summit. Will he speak? Will he attend? I don't think he's going to leave the Bahamas.
I know,
because people like Bitboy are sitting outside his house.
Maybe that's what they're waiting for, for him to step foot. Unless he does it virtually, but wouldn't that be something?
What would he even say at this point? In addition, I did see, I don't know if you guys know who Mario Nofal, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He's popular with Twitter Spaces, and apparently SPF is going to go on his Twitter Spaces on Thursday.
Wow.
But what are you even going to say at that point? Like, I'm sorry? Like that tweet, that was like ultimate troll. Remember that thread he did? What happens? And it's like letter by letter. Are you just trolling us at that point?
It certainly seems like it. And it certainly, at this point, you're right. All he should be saying is, I'm sorry I messed up, and, I'll do my best to make it right. Because I don't think at this point there's much else to say, right? How do you justify doing some of the things that he was doing? So it's a mess. And I just hope that, if anything good comes from it in terms of good, solid regulation, and maybe hopefully this doesn't happen again. My biggest concern in the crypto markets is that you have other companies that were holding FTX tokens, or they were holding other stuff, and now they're having to file for bankruptcy, or they're getting close to that, which can kind of be a chain reaction in the industry. The one thing I do want to show you, and this will be a positive, right, on Bitcoin. Let me bring up my Bitcoin chart.
Yay!
Here. I know you love when I bring in the chart.
I literally love it, man. I don't think you understand.
Can you give me access? It doesn't look like I'm able to share.
I got you, fam.
Awesome.
1 second. There you go. Sorry.
All right. So one of the things I like pointing out to people is that, as I say, it's kind of like the beginning of the end of the down move in crypto. And one of the cool things to recognize here is, like, if you look at the collapse that occurred with Terra Luna, right? So we were trading around like 31,000 when Terra Luna the collapse occurred, and we went down to about 17.5. I think that was about a 40+% drop in Bitcoin during that period. And what's kind of cool is that if you look at the percentage drop here when FTX, filed essentially and collapsed, it's only about a 25% decline. And you could argue that the decline, that the FTX situation is way worse in terms of the ripple effects in the crypto industry. And in theory, it should have done at least 40% to Bitcoin, maybe more, because of the negative impact and the size of it. So I would just say that, if you're looking for the positives within the crypto charts, this would be one of them. The size of this collapse is now basically half. So Bitcoin only lost half of what it lost during Terra Luna percentage wise, even though you could argue that FTX was even worse than Terra Luna. So that's a nice little positive that I think we should just kind of pay attention to. I still think Bitcoin's not quite at a bottom, but it's absolutely getting there.
So with those drops, why do you think it got smaller this time? Why do you think it was only about a 25% drop versus the last time where it was 40%? And that was just Luna versus one of the biggest exchanges, period.
Yeah, so I think what it is it's the market beginning to adapt, right? So a lot of people following Terra Luna that were already nervous about more kind of issues, they already exited in that drop and they just kind of said, okay. And now you have a scenario where people are kind of like, okay, we're kind of expecting these bad headlines. Let's instead not freak out and just dump and panic, but maybe we just hold still. We hold our crypto right now and we kind of wait this out, or maybe we even buy. In fact, I read an intriguing story the last couple of days, which was basically saying that the amount of people buying, the amount of small investors that hold one Bitcoin or less, you actually had the most buying in the last month that you've seen since the all-time highs in crypto. And I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
So it tells you actually small investors are actually accumulating here.
Absolutely. When I first got into crypto, Bitcoin was $7,000. That was not when I first got in crypto, but when I first created my Twitter account. Bitcoin was $7,000. People were, like we talked about last show, people would cut their pinky toe off at 69K to get a full Bitcoin. And now people are seeing this opportunity yet again. So they're going to grab it all. I know people that were texting me and saying, is this my time to buy a whole Bitcoin? I'm like, not financial advice, but if you think this is a good entry point, then go for it. Because people are begging for these numbers. Now, you said that you don't think that we've seen the bottom for Bitcoin. You think we could go lower. And I'm surprised to see where we're at now. So where do you think the future is headed for Bitcoin? Because I don't know. Do you think there could be one big news story that brings us down to new lows?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think FTX might be the big one, meaning that's the big earthquake. But one of the things that's kind of intriguing is that if you go back to the Lehman Brothers, and Lehman Brothers was a massive bank in 2008 that collapsed, and it basically went out of business and everything. It was essentially the FTX of the banking sector in 08. And basically when that happened, there was a ton of panic. The market still fell another 40% or so from that point over the next 6 months. And so for me, I say, okay, well, if FTX is the Lehman moment for the crypto markets, you basically have a window over the next 4 to 5 months 5 to 6 months for a bottom. And then Bitcoin from where that started probably goes down about 40-50%, which kind of puts us just below 10,000. And I also think that investors,
Okay.
So, but think about this, right? So even if Bitcoin goes to 10,000, it's only $6,000 lower than now, 7,000. Remember, we were at 69,000 and we're at 16 now. So, it's kind of splitting hairs at this point to say, it's another $6,000-7,000, and then you have a verifiable maybe bottom in the crypto markets where the rising from the ashes will have big money, assuming we get regulation. And I think it again becomes one of the best buying opportunities for an asset that you could ever hope for. So I know that sounds crazy, but I'm kind of expecting more downside again, but it's minimal. Like for me, I'm already starting to nibble on a hodl position, right?
Yeah.
So even though I expect it to go down, what if it doesn't? So, all right, so I'll pick up a 1/6 position in this range here. In fact, it was a little over 17,000 where I accumulated a little bit. If it goes below 15, I'll buy a little bit more. If it goes below 12, I'll buy a little bit more. Below 10, I'll buy some more. Basically just starting to kind of dip the toes in the water, not really caring if you're getting in down here. If what's 7,000 if it's going to go up 100,000 kind of thing.
Exactly.
So I think that's the important takeaway. And again, I'd much rather accumulate a little bit here and maybe a little bit below 15. And let's say that's the bottom. Let's say I'm wrong and at the bottom is 15. At least if it goes to 100, I have some investment in it versus being like, oh, darn, I was being a stickler. I was going to wait till 9,000 and it never got there, right? So you have to weigh the pros and the cons. And I think you have to be, if you're getting into crypto, you have to be ready for a wild ride, right? I mean,
Yes.
You can't get in and be like, oh, this is going to be no stress. And I mean, it's going to be wild. So only invest money that you kind of are ready to deal with that kind of volatility. But again, I think this makes sense to kind of slowly start inching into.
100%. People, like we were saying before, could look at this as a great entry point. And I've been saying this a lot as well. I agree. If you're looking into the future, macro 10 years, and Bitcoin is possibly $100,000, are you going to care if you bought at 17, 16, 15? No, you're just going to be happy that you have some and that like you made this genius decision in 2022 to make this move. Like you wouldn't be upset later down the line. And I know that you use history often when looking at technical analysis. You compare previous times to now. Are there any synergies that you are finding between, like, let's say 2017 when we had that big dramatic bear market to now? And do you think we could pop off like we did then?
Yeah, so there are really some interesting synergies actually out there. And one of the things I kind of want to go over here is a chart on Bitcoin from that period, right? So bear with me here because I'm going to bring up my charts and show them. But 1 second, I'm entering a hedge fund.
Guys,
I'm entering a hedge fund trade as we
oh my gosh,
here.
Gareth is live trading with us. And if you are enjoying this, please smash those likes and say hi in the chat.
Like it up, guys. 100%. All right. So let's look at Bitcoin and go back to 2017 because this gives us a great amount of information as well, right?
Yeah.
So here's your 2017 high over here. Okay, now the period that I believe was June to November is replicated right here. See how, remember June, that was when Terra Luna occurred, and basically we went sideways in a really tight range for 3 months until we got FTX.
Yeah.
Well, what's amazing about it, you basically have 3 months, or you have that same period, right? So from June all the way to November. So, right, FTX occurred right in June, I believe, right? Was it June?
Yeah.
So what's amazing is that it almost aligns perfectly with the 2018 period here, where this low was June, then you saw this sideways chop, and then guess when we broke down? November, which is just when we broke down now. So you have that same sort of thing. So based on what I'm seeing here this is kind of what we're going to experience now, which is this kind of cliff dive, which basically, you know what? This was 6,000 and change to 3,000 and change. So what is that? About 40 to 50%.
Yeah.
And we just talked about how it would likely be a 40 to 50% drop. And then the low was put in. So I think we're probably right around here right now in the cycle. And I still think we have this to go. But again, look at how soon we're going to bottom. And then, it's going to take some chop, right? Trust has to be built up again in the crypto markets. A lot of trust has been lost. But ultimately, you get in this next bull cycle. And then I think this bull cycle could be even bigger than the last, because if you have regulation and transparency, then big money will buy. And remember, there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoins ever mined. So there's a finite resource. And if you have literally billion-dollar hedge funds chasing trillion-dollar pension funds, putting even like 1% into like Bitcoin, it's going to drive the price up exponentially. So you could be at 250,000 in 5 years from now very, very easily if the transparency gets into the crypto market.
Wow, that chart was just woo. And that's why we like to say, when in doubt, zoom out on the charts, because then you kind of realize the history of Bitcoin and where we could possibly see this going. And to see that maybe we could, obviously we're going to surpass new all-time highs in the next bull run. But you're thinking maybe in the next 6 months we could bottom out here and then start to see that nice run up to the top and we go buy Lambos again?
So it probably won't be super easy, right? Because you have to factor in the fact that the Fed won't be printing money like they were probably, unless we get in a really bad depression kind of scenario. So I think it's going to take some time. Just like in that period on the charts, there was about a 6-month sideways chop where we went up a little bit, then we came back down and so forth. So I think it'll take some time, but I do think that the market here over the next 6 months will make even the most bullish Bitcoin investors worried.
Yeah.
And then that'll flush out the weak hands. And then the people that are left standing, they will end up making money. But, I do think that, again, it will see $500,000 to $1 million in probably within the next 5-10 years in terms of an investment, which you can't beat. I mean, even at 16,000, that return is incredible. Incredible.
Absolutely. And like you were saying, there are only 21 million Bitcoin. No one can change that fact. And, I hate to say it, but a lot of Bitcoin have been lost. People were silly. They threw out their old computers with hundreds of Bitcoins on them. Guys, every Bitcoin matters. Every single Bitcoin. So if you could scoop some up, of course, not financial advice, but if you want money that truly belongs to you, then Bitcoin is the way. And I also wanted to ask you, do you watch other altcoins? Do you watch ETH and Litecoin and others? Because I saw that Litecoin was actually having a big run, and then I noticed that in past cycles, Litecoin actually kind of led the market in certain ways by going up first, and then the rest of the market follows, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, so I definitely have kept an eye on it. In fact, I have a bunch of trend lines on here. One of my favorites is to show the breakout that occurred on Litecoin and then how it retraced to the line that it broke out from. So what you can see here is Litecoin. See this trend line going from all the way back here. It touches here, all the way down, even right here it touched. And what you could see here is it broke out, had this nice bull run, and then look at when it retraced, it went right back and touched this level. And I call that a retrace to the scene of the crime, or like a retrace to home base. It always likes to come back there, and then that's the catalyst for the next move up. So you're right. I mean, Litecoin has been remarkable here. In fact, I was looking at BSV earlier today too, and that had a crazy pop. Look at this pop here. And apparently that had to do with one of the exchanges or something like that not allowing leverage anymore, or limiting the leverage. And so there was a ton of short covering that occurred that's going on in some of these cryptos, and it's causing these big pops right now.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things about that too is that if you look for something that could cause a pop in crypto, if you do get regulation, and let's say the regulation says, okay, exchanges, you can't offer more than 2 times leverage, right? Now, we know some of the exchanges offer ridiculous leverage. Well, it might actually cause a lot of short covering in the crypto market, which actually could pop cryptocurrencies nicely. So, just a little tidbit there.
So you think Litecoin is really interesting too. And I saw your trend line went farther down. So do you think Litecoin could go back and test those levels again? Or do you think that's not relevant anymore? I'm just trying to learn because I saw the line. So I'm just asking the question.
It's a really good question. So there's always a chance that it does, but trend lines that are sloping this sharply to the downside, usually you'll get the first check back, and then that'll be about it. So now it's not to say that you can't come back to a level like for instance, you have support levels here, right? So this will be a big support area right here. You can see how this was the high, and then it got above and it kind of paused before that next. So, I mean, this will be a little bit of resistance right here, or support, I should say. Here was your high. It went up. It retraced right there. So you have little levels along the way. But in general, this steep of a trend line, you probably won't go back and retest, because if you did, let's say in 6 months, you went back to this line. In 6 months, this is probably like $10 or lower.
Yeah,
and so
crazy.
let's all hope that it doesn't go back there.
Yeah, I hope not. And do you also look at pairs? Like if you were looking at Litecoin and why it's popping off, would you also look at the BTC LTC pair? Does that matter at all? Or do you just look at the dollar to Litecoin trading pair?
I generally analyze the dollar to the cryptocurrency pair, but I think it is worthwhile to just look and see, well, how is one trading against it? So let me bring up the chart again, and we'll look at Bitcoin.
Oh, cool.
In comparison here, but you can clearly see that Litecoin is far outperforming, right? So here was the Litecoin dump that occurred when FTX dropped, but notice how Bitcoin made a new low here, while Litecoin only went back to these recent lows right here. So you definitely see some added strength in Litecoin. And again, I'm not sure, to be honest, what's causing this. I honestly don't know. But it is very intriguing to see some of these coins starting to wake up here. And again, what's causing it? That's my next kind of thing, is to delve in to see what's causing these type of moves.
And what about Ethereum? Do you think Ethereum can follow the same track as Litecoin, or maybe even Bitcoin? Because I know ETH is kind of, sometimes it moves its own way as well. It doesn't always follow what Bitcoin does.
Yeah, the positive thing about ETH is that at least performance today-wise, you're getting a nice pop. It's back above 1,200, and it's testing this resistance area right here. So if it can get above this and hold above, you actually could have a nice move up to like 1,400, 14 and change. But in general, because, this is the tricky thing. Ethereum and Bitcoin are very much tied together in that they are both the biggest, the most widely held cryptocurrencies, so that they tend to kind of trade on human emotion, right? If people are panicking and Bitcoin selling, it's hard for Ethereum to not sell a little bit. I think you definitely have relative strength in Ethereum right now compared to Bitcoin, but again, they probably move in general in tandem.
Yeah, and Litecoin, someone also put in the chat, is supposed to be August 2023. So that could be something. Maybe that could attribute a little bit to it. I think that's pretty interesting. I think Litecoin's cool, just following the halving, and we'll see if it follows like the same kind of 4-year cycle. Even the 4-year cycle that Bitcoin has now, do you even think that's going to hold up in the future? Or because I don't know if this 4-year cycle thing is going to continue to work out, where every 4 years it's like an extreme run up and then an extreme crash and then going back up. I think maybe Bitcoin will get zesty one day and switch it up. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I generally agree. I think that the 4-year cycle was valid while the Fed was doing quantitative easing, right? So Bitcoin started in 2009. Well, 2009 was the same year that the Fed started quantitative easing, which is money printing. And so since then, we've had 4-year cycles, but you have to recognize the impact of printing money and what it's done to Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto sector. So it's very valid to say that it could be different going forward without the Fed doing what they're doing. Now, again, is it going to be 6-year cycles? I mean, I'm sure cycles will play into it. It's very likely that the bear cycle could be a little bit longer. And by the way, I think that's important to recognize is like we're already, if we make new lows here, so if you look at 2017, you bottomed in 2018 about 1 year later. That was when Bitcoin bottomed. We're already at that 1 year point. And so if we do go lower, then we can say, okay, now this cycle is a little bit longer to the downside. The positive to that is that it's very possible that this is the healthy kind of readjustment cycle without Fed printing, where you're actually going to get real investors that aren't just throwing money at Bitcoin, and therefore the bull cycle could actually last longer because of it.
That's so interesting, because I remember me and you, we talked about how maybe this past pump all the way, because remember I think we were talking about how there was a double top. Maybe that was a fake out because of all the money that was being printed and everything. So you're saying maybe next bull run, we won't really have that issue and it will be like a genuine bull run, not just people just aimlessly like rah, 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 gamble, gamble, Lambo, Lambo.
Yeah. And honestly, that would be the healthiest thing for Bitcoin would be to mature into an asset that goes up slowly, but over time, just consistently, right? So, when you get these crazy runs where Bitcoin went from through 3,500 bear market cycle to 69,000 in a very short period of time, that honestly isn't healthy, because what it breeds is these people that think that it's like a get rich quick method. And those aren't real investors, right? No. Real investors are like, okay, I'm going to go in this because I think it's going to be, a good percentage return year on year for the next 50 years. And they're like the long-term kind of holders versus these type of ones where they jumped on board thinking it was going to be easy money, like it was going to be 100,000 by December of 2011 versus the 70,000 that it kind of topped out at. So yeah, I think that would be healthier for Bitcoin and the crypto markets.
Yeah, filter out all these degens. And then we also have like big movers. I was looking at the charts this morning. Polygon is blasting off, and they've been working really hard. They have a lot of partnerships, and besides I know Polygon's popping, but do you think that news factors into charts? Because I do know some say that charts are just straight up charts and that news doesn't matter, but I do think maybe news does matter a little bit. Sometimes I think the chart could tell you first, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I'm in the camp where I believe that the charts give you a signal ahead of time. It's just a matter of, can you read that signal? Mm-hmm. So like what oftentimes will happen is that, and this is kind of an interesting thing, is like, you'll have smart money that is in the know, meaning that they might have inside information. They might know what's going on at the company. Like some news is going to come out. And so you'll see the charts starting to like uptick a little bit, which is them buying. Only a few people, but enough to kind of create a little bit of whipsaw, a little bit of upside early. And then miraculously, all of a sudden, a big pop comes and you're like, oh, wow, that's interesting. So I think you get a lot of that stuff in markets in general. So I do think that in general, the charts will tell you there's news coming if you know what to look for. In terms of the Polygon chart, it's kind of an interesting chart because number one, it's well off of its lows. So it's been performing amazingly well. The one thing I would say, and again, you have this trend line. There's a line that I want to see Polygon hold, which is this one right here, right? So In fact, I'm going to get rid of this other one so we can clearly see it. So if we zoom in, you can clearly see pivot low, you kind of kissed it there and there. So as long as Polygon holds that, I think it's actually an intriguing long story here, an intriguing buy, but I just wouldn't want to see it break that line. You know, that would be a line that if it broke, then you start heading down to like 60 cents or so.
And what was their all-time high during the bull run? What was that? I think it was like $2 something, right?
Yeah, 293-ish, somewhere up here, yeah, in the highs.
For Polygon to be kind of holding where it is now, that's not bad at all for this type of bear market where assets are just losing basically 90+% of their value.
No, you're right. That performance-wise, it's way outperforming a lot of other cryptos that are down 90+% from their all-time highs. Absolutely.
Wow, that's super interesting. I noticed that this morning. I was looking at the all-time high and I was like, hold on, why? Like, how is it holding this much? And I think it's just because of the community and, you know, what they've been doing, because their partnerships are absolutely through the roof. You know, if, let's say, like, you know, Polygon doesn't make it through, like, you know, like it falls through that line that you were just showing us. Like, is there just an extreme downfall from there? Because I don't even think from there it could be that bad of a downfall, considering that its lows aren't even that low from the cycle.
Yeah, so it looks like, I mean, you know, and this is going to be the tricky thing, right? Is that the question is where, if Bitcoin, let's say, does go to 9,000, where could Polygon potentially go to? And really, all we can do is follow the chart levels, right? So first support is going to be right in here. You can clearly see that there's, I mean, this sideways chop and then this high and this high, and then it broke out. So, you know, retracing to 62, 63 cents, that's going to be major support. Now, if it breaks that, then you start getting into potentially the double bottom here at around 33 cents. There'll be small pivots here of support and here, but this would be the next big one. So again, there is some risk. But again, it's a matter of, you know, if you're a Polygon fan and you're an investor and you want to be an investor, the biggest thing to do here is, you know, if it gets down to 63 cents, you buy a little bit, but not your full position. And then you can always add on the way down if you're a fan of the coin, right? And I think that's the key, is that investors tend to want to go all in on an investment right off the bat. I did that when I was young. I did that in my early years because all I was thinking about was, how do I make as much money as I can as quickly as I can? And then you know what happened? I'd make money on like 1-2 trades, and then I'd like lose 90% of my money on the next trade. And so I was like, wait a minute, so that's not working. And I did that like 20 times before I realized I was a super slow learner. But finally I was like, okay, well, what if I buy, I mean, I like the long-term story here. What if I buy a little here, 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 here? Okay, now my overall average is down here. And then the bigger move comes, and I was able to kind of get a much bigger bang for the buck. And that's how I was able to really build wealth. Like that, it helps you because you don't go all in and then you're down 50%. Instead, you slowly inch in, and then when the pop comes, you're actually making money a lot faster.
Yeah, this is not get rich quick. And I think, you know, what you were even saying is that you were attaching your emotions to your trading, which is like the worst thing that you could do. Like, you just have to separate your emotions from trading. And I think, you know, maybe after a few bad trades, you're going to realize and be like, oh, damn, like my ego, I need to get that in check right there. I mean,
no, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You know, to be honest, the markets, and it doesn't matter what market it is the markets will eat you alive if you're emotional, right? The markets know exactly where the maximum amount of people will sell and exit their positions if it drops to a certain level. And it also somehow knows the highest level it needs to push to lure the most people in before it then falls back down. I mean, look at Bitcoin, right? When it was at 65, 69,000, the hype was intense. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere without everyone just talking about it. It was just getting everyone in. And then what happens? It falls to sub 20,000, right? So you have to be able to control your emotions. It's the biggest thing in any market.
Yes, friends, control your emotions. Don't let your ego get the best of you, my friends, or else you're going to end up broken eating ramen. We can't be doing that. Even though ramen is good, like, you know, there's a few ramen flavors that I'm a fan of, but you know, we don't want to eat ramen all the time. We want to be able to one day buy a Lambo.
You want that filet mignon on occasion.
Oh my gosh, I would love one of those. You know, steak is so expensive where I live. There was a T-bone, one T-bone from the grocery store, not cooked, nothing, $43.
Wow.
I'm not even joking. I don't know if it's that bad near you, But
It's not quite as bad, but I mean, prices have gone up amazingly. It is kind of crazy how high food prices have gone. And what they do is, this is the crazy thing, right? So in the store, the tub of ice cream used to be like $3.99 or whatever for the tub of ice cream, and it used to be like a half gallon or a gallon, and then they'll keep the price at $3.99, but you'll notice you'll be like, wait a minute, it's about half the size,
Yes.
It's like,
It's so messed up. And, the pints of ice cream now are like literally $5-6. And I'm looking at this like, wow, like we're in trouble. Even pre-COVID, it really wasn't that bad. There was a little bit of inflation. I knew they were printing too much money, but then it came to, what they're doing now. And prices, it seems to me, the way it works is once it goes up, it doesn't come back down.
Right.
So, and then wages aren't increasing either. So we're going to, again, like hit this really weird crossroads where chaos.
Yeah.
Chaos is going to ensue.
There's no doubt about it. And what's amazing right now is that generally there's a fair amount of jobs out there. So prices going up, people are like, okay, well, I have a good job. Maybe I got a raise, whatever it was. But like if you get in a scenario where prices are this high or continue to climb and we go into a recession where there's lots of layoffs, that's really going to cause some big issues out there.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of ice cream, what's your favorite flavor?
Cookies and cream or cookie dough, one or the other.
Cookies and cream slaps. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of chocolate.
What's your favorite topping?
Oh my gosh. Topping? Probably hot fudge.
Nice.
Like, give me all that. And also, I love whipped cream. Like, I could,
Nice.
when I was little, I used to just
Are you the type
spray
that
the whole
buys with
can.
a cream bottle and just like
Exactly
does it?
that. Exactly. Yeah, pretty much. It's so sweet and it's like fluffy. I really love like homemade ones. Like, my aunt makes one for Christmas and it's amazing. Like, I don't know how she does it, but it's magical. I love food.
Nice.
Food is really good.
Food is good. I
Did you have a
agree.
good Thanksgiving dinner?
Yeah, it was nice. Had some family over. Ate way too much as usual, so that's about appropriate, How about you?
I ate a lot of food. I even baked. I went wild, and then I even baked cookies at the end of the day. So
did?
Yeah, I love baking cookies. I do often post on my Instagram story all of my food. I have like a food highlight reel, and
Nice.
I did. Make fresh cookies. I love cookies, and I was just like, you know what? Like I made chocolate chip. I was planning on making oatmeal raisin, but I found out I didn't have one of the two items, so I was like, all right, gotta like improvise with what I have now. But yeah, definitely.
Oatmeal
like
raisin,
it.
is that your attempt for like good but kind of a little on the healthier side too, or not? It doesn't matter really.
It doesn't matter for me, but my dad likes oatmeal raisin, so I try to make it for him. But then I was like, all right, guess I can't today, so you're gonna have to wait on that. I don't know. I randomly baked him a cake like a few weeks ago for like no reason.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I like food. Food is really good.
I do too. I don't think you'll hear any arguments on that
We'll make
one.
money.
Yeah, especially if you're in New York. You're in New
Yeah.
York, like the best food ever. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, the best food. I'm so spoiled because it's like I go away, I go to other places, and I expect like, the best. Just because like anywhere, like the delis, all the bagel stores, it's just all really good food and just everywhere. Best. And then you leave New York and it's kind of like you're in like, what do I do now? Like there's no good bread, there's no good bagels, no good pizza. It's like everything I live off of. I feel like I'm half pizza.
No, so I went to New York, and over the summer I was there for the first time in years, really. And the first thing I did was I found one of those little pizza places, that you walk in. Didn't really, they don't have a lot of seating. They have like one or two little tiny tables.
Yeah.
And I spent like $75 and stuff, and I brought it back to the hotel room, and I just gorged on it. And like, if you can get think about how much food set in a pizza place where you're buying the little like the pinwheels, the oh man,
calzones, chicken
but
rolls.
It was so good, and I hadn't had it in so long. I was like, I have to just try a little of everything. It was amazing.
Yeah, sometimes you got to do it. And most of these places are good. Like, some of them aren't good, but most of them are good. And it's just like you just go in there, you smell the food, then you look at all of it, and you're like, oh, I want one of that. I want one of that.
Now, as soon as I'm off here, I'm going to get food.
I'm not even joking. That's why I'm like talking about, because I have like we have everything laid out. So once I'm off this stream, then like I'm going straight to cooking. I have raviolis ready to go, and these raviolis are so special because this Italian deli literally makes them fresh, and they send it to other Italian delis throughout Brooklyn. So this place is amazing. It's always so fresh. Like you could taste how fresh it is. It's not frozen. Quality. I get so excited. I I get so excited about food. I mean, if you could go eat something right now, what would it be?
Oh my God. That's a good question. I don't even know right now. I'm just hungry overall. I grab chips out of the cupboard right now and start shoving them in my
Which
mouth.
what chips you like?
I like Doritos, yeah, definitely Doritos or
Love
something like
Doritos.
that. Or if I have guac and salsa, I love Mexican food. I could go to Mexican every
Yes.
night and eat Mexican.
There's nothing like a good guac, especially one that's fresh. Like you can taste the fresh avocado. Sometimes you get
Yeah.
like a bad guac and you're like, nah, like that's not good. But then you find the good ones.
If you had to, what would be the crypto that is equivalent to guac?
I
That's the
don't.
question.
Ooh, Bitcoin.
Maybe Solana?
So,
No, I
oh
don't
my
think
God, no, that's like bad. Like, listen, Solana.
that
I
would
don't
be
even
the
know what's
bad
gonna
guac.
happen with Solana. That's a whole she show on its own because it's like a lot of VCs are tied up in there. But with
Yeah.
Alameda, Sam was a big part of Solana. Like, God, like that's a mess over there. I hope for the
Yeah,
sake of the projects that Solana
I
survives.
do
But I
wonder,
don't know.
so this is going to be the key is if somehow it survives everything, then that would be impressive. Obviously, you hear that Alameda has like 10% or whatever.
Yeah.
But if they unload that and somehow the market absorbs it and it still hangs in there, then I actually think it would be interesting longer term. But who knows? I mean, there's so many. The thing is, I worry that there's so many projects out there in trouble right now that you just got to be so careful.
Exactly. That's true. You just don't know. And then when it sucks that it comes to things like this where then people start doing their research and start seeing like who really owns what and that Alameda did own a lot of Solana. So I mean, listen, I don't know. I hope for the sake of the projects that it survives, but they had technical issues, Solana going down every 5 minutes and
True.
there was just so much that besides the Alameda thing and it sucks that the Alameda thing had to happen for people to pay attention to what was really going on at Solana. Granted that they were planning a lot of things, like the Solana phone, the shoes, and stores and things like that. Like the ideas were there, but I guess like the funding, who is behind it, and the technology itself might hold it back. But also who knows? There's a lot of people that do support Solana, a lot of really good stuff. But like J Mac is saying, very deep entanglement within the community. So we're gonna
It
have to
is.
see.
It is.
So Gareth, I know you have a lot going on right now. You have a course that's out, I believe, right? So
Yeah.
can you tell everyone where to find you, where to learn from you? And if you have a message for our friends, it could be about chips, guac, the markets, Florida. I don't know. Let us know what you have to say.
Wow. So yes, I do have an educational course. Actually, we're doing a Black Friday 50% off that goes through tomorrow deal. So if anyone wants to get involved on that, it's really life-changing stuff. Like the stuff people are telling me is amazing. They're saying this literally is changing the way I view the markets. I'm able to make money and everything like that. And the beauty of it is it's universal. Like you could trade stocks, crypto, anything. It's all universal. So I think that's really kind of one of the positives about it. The website's verifiedinvestingeducation.com. And basically it's everything that I've learned in 20 years of trading of charts and psychology and discipline and all that stuff, getting rid of that emotion. It's all in there. And again, the website verifiedinvestingeducation.com. But yeah, I appreciate you letting me mention that because it's very, very cool and it's close to my heart. It's kind of like I see when I'm not here on this earth anymore, I still think that will help people, that people can learn and then avoid kind of the nonsense because there's so much craziness in the markets, whether it's crypto, whether it's stocks, there's shady stuff going on. And reading the charts kind of does tell you that, okay, I should avoid this or, oh, I need to get in this. So very, very cool. And aside from that, go get a good guac and chips right now, I think.
Yay, let's get food. And yeah, of course I wanted you to share that because I know you work relentlessly. Gareth is such a hard worker. He's on everyone's show. He's hopping around spreading his knowledge to everybody and I appreciate you taking the time out hanging out with me and I do appreciate all the work you do. I see it and I see the love that you have for this space and what you do overall. And I don't want to think about you not being on this earth anymore, but I do think that this is going to live on your guide. So please go check out. I just put that link in the live chat.
Oh, thank you.
Follow Gareth on Twitter. And I also put his shore.b buy thing. So his short link, so you can see all of his links and all of that's in the description of the video as well. Please follow Gareth if you don't already. I don't know if you don't follow Gareth, you're crazy. I don't even know what you're doing at this point. So go follow Gareth. And if you're here, please subscribe,
like.
comment after this is over.
I take it a personal offense if I'm on here and you don't like it, so like it up.
See, you heard it. You don't want to get Gareth upset, or else he's going to give you a bad
mad.
trade, and then you're going to get liquidated.
I'm not going to tell you next time when Bitcoin's going to go up, and you want to know that.
Exactly. See, you got to listen to Gareth, and he will be back soon because we love Gareth on this channel. Thank you again, Gareth. Thank you to everybody in the chat. I will see you guys tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern, the Daily Zest, Monday to Thursday. Do not miss it. I will be breaking down the news for all of you friends. Thank you again. See you tomorrow, and as always, stay zesty. Peace.